Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Just Bleed Radio. Today's Sunday, the 10th of August, 2025, and this is the Weekend Roundup. Hey, you bleeders, it's Fight Talk time, and this week saw us back at the most famous whorehouse in Las Vegas. Sorry, most famous warehouse in Las Vegas. Although, if you think about it, these guys and girls are selling their bodies. I just hope you like blood for lube. Anyways, I'd probably better get us off this slippery slope and drag us back on track. This is episode 64 of the Weekend Roundup. I'm your host, DangerMouse, and I am joined by JBR's very own IPA. He's irreverent, he's punchy, he's audacious, especially in his picks. It's our California can crusher, it's Austin. How's things in sunny California, mate? You all ready to talk some fights?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I was doing great in the picks, and then my hubris, like Icarus in the sun, flew too close, and dear God, was I at the edge of my seat, just throwing my goddamn head at the fucking split decisions. But it's not even a It's not a great time. It's not a great time.
In that case, I shall mock you with my results a little bit later. And of course, we have our own connoisseur of cannabis. If he was a strain, he'd probably be a Cuyahoga chokehold chronic, a sativa dominant hybrid for that lively podcast energy, with a herbal and citrusy flavor profile, giving us that river fresh vibe. Its effects, uplifting and focused, perfect for his witty MMA breakdowns. I say OH, he says,
Oh!
It's our man LazyBed. How's things, mate?
I'm short. I'm bald. I can't get any hoes. I've been fighting my entire life. You can get hoes.
Pretty fucking good. I'm proud of you there for saying Cuyahoga. Finally, you did get it out. It's a word that I didn't expect to hear today, but all Ohioans will know the word Cuyahoga. But yeah, between the PFL, Africa, UFC, regional MMA, and BKFC, I'm pretty much just feeling grateful that I didn't get knocked the fuck out this weekend because I've seen a lot of people who did. So happy to be here.
All right, let's get on with this Apex card. No fight of the night on this card, which tells one story, but there were some fun fights and some fantastic knockouts. And first up at middleweight, we had Eric Anders versus Christian Leroy Duncan. This fight started off with an early eye poke that earned a hard warning. And then just as things were starting to warm up, CLD splits the posts. Despite the earlier warning, he just gets another telling off. So the one of each type of foul rule was in full effect for this fight. CLD, clearly the faster fighter. He kind of reminded me of an aggressive MVP with the entire stance switches thing. Anders attempted to grapple, but that was largely blunted by CLD following that Edwards model of the baseball grip. You know, two hands on your wrist. It's very difficult to grapple someone that way. And then when he found a bit of space, he began to make a difference with the striking. And then he landed that winning combo, a spinning elbow that clanked off Anders' head, put him on wobbly legs, and then he pursued him relentlessly across the cage and brutally finished him with a combo of uppercuts. Very nice performance by CLD. I couldn't find a ranking for him. So, Austin, why don't you give us your thoughts on this one first and what's in CLD's future?
Well, I thought this was an interesting matchup because I didn't think he was... Mr. Duncan was ready for, honestly, a step up in competition to the likes of which we see Anders. And it's not that I think Anders was a much better fighter than him going into this. I actually picked Duncan to win, not as handily as he did, but still. And you were kind of right. He kind of looked like a more, not lumbering, I would say, but similar to MVP, where he kind of just opens his stance a little bit, not hands down per se, but kind of like how Wonder Boy does, where he's got his hands up in a karate stance, ready to kind of throw pretty vicious strikes. And damn, did he look good doing it. And it's not that you're looking at Anders and thinking, God, this guy just couldn't handle it. No, he's been in there with some pretty heavy hitters and he's survived. This one, he just couldn't keep up. And unfortunately now this is just middleweight passing him by. It's much similar to how we saw the fight with him and Mr. Weidman. That's my boy. He's still my son. Weidman. I don't think that Anders is still a terrible middleweight, nor is he just done completely. I think he just probably has 1 or 2 fights left before he should probably call it. I don't think he should be facing up-and-coming talent. I think he should just be facing guys closer to his age bracket, which he still might lose pretty viciously, but still. As far as Duncan is concerned, I mean, hell, he almost couldn't miss even despite the fouls landing. I don't think he meant to do it. It was one of those things where because of the way his stance and fight style works, it doesn't work well when you have a kind of a wrestle boxer, the likes of which Anders kind of presents. It doesn't really move too often, and when he does, it's very subtle. And it's like he's a former athlete who's transitioned to MMA because he can no longer do the other thing. So he kind of still remains stiff. He doesn't really change too much of his offense. He doesn't really change too much of his stance. He doesn't really stance switch anyways. So he's kind of stuck in the same motion. And if he slightly moves forward, Duncan throwing a kick that was meant to go to the inside thigh, it lands on his cup, unfortunately. You know, it is what it is. It wasn't on purpose. He just sometimes, you know, these things happen in MMA, you know? What I would like to see Duncan do is face someone like, honestly, like Michelle Pereira. Just because that seems to be like the bracket of which, okay, we're at the bottom of the, of the top, let's say, from 20 to 15. I think that's where he should be at right now. And I think Michelle Pereira, who was in the rankings, should be out of the rankings and is probably looking for a fight. That should be the fight that we see because that pushes the guy into the contendership status next. If he beats him, maybe not ranked, but he's on the precipice of becoming ranked. That would be a thing I would like to see. But that's just me.
Yeah, that'd be a fun fight. I picked CLD too on this one, but I didn't expect him to KO Anders so early. I actually thought he'd get a decision. But Lazy, what did you think of this fight? Anything to say about it?
Well, do I have something to say about this? Yes, I absolutely do have something to say about this. And I'll start by saying, holy shit, it's Dunk versus Unk. It was Christian Leroy Duncan versus Uncle fucking Eric Anders, 38-year-old man. You're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I understand you're trying to get the most you can out of what's left of your career, but there ain't much of nothing left. But yeah, there he is. That's the CLD that I thought I saw back in like fucking 2022, 2023, when he was leaving Cage Warriors and at first coming to the UFC. Like, when Buddy is on, he is fucking on like a light switch. That dude is a threat. He is like, he cracks, and he cracks with precision and a speed that you don't expect from a middleweight his size. So that spinning elbow, dude, like that pretty much sent Anders right into factory reset mode. Like, he was just kind of stumbling backwards, and you could see the fucking files leaving his brain. And tough scenes for him, and the follow-up shots that CLD landed afterwards, those were heavy and clean too. But he did nearly have a hat trick of fouls, but he still managed to seal the show, and rightfully so. Had he not put away an Eric Anders, who had been dropped in his last 3 fights against guys like Chris Weidman and fucking other older guys at the end of their careers, like you guys mentioned, that would have been a real problem. So, closing remark, I would say, on a night of fun finishes, it's unfortunate that CLD's spinning elbow and those follow-up shots are likely to be overshadowed because, he beat up Eric Anders like he was an angry drug dealer that Eric owed money. And it's just unfortunate that the other knockouts that occurred later kind of overshadowed him. But luckily, he did lock up one of the performance bonuses, so he does have an extra $50,000 to remember it by himself. So it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's very nice. Guru was saying he sometimes has that ability to just drop into the light switch, as you described it, straight into the flow state. All right, next up we had the bantamweights, as we saw Miles Jones versus Jean Matsumoto. Jean Matsumoto with the Muay Thai background, apparently. There was talk of how you can't stand in the pocket and take shots in 4-ounce gloves from Daniel Cormier. But I guess DC has never watched one then, because those bastards throw 4 punches at each other in the pocket all the time.
Letway? What is Letway, Dom?
It's Sean Republic.
If Dom don't even know this, if Dom don't really know that, then nobody should know that, because Dom knows everything.
I don't know everything, but I know what that is. Come on, you do too.
Obviously, the takedown is a difference, but yeah, just want to roast DC a little bit for that one. Fairly technical first round. Miles Johns throwing some heat, and he threw in a takedown. I think Matsumoto briefly had a guillotine, and then the rest of the round it was Matsumoto with the forward pressure. I thought he was working the jab pretty well, and he was slamming in a lot of body kicks, and that method for him continued throughout rounds 2 and 3. Matsumoto, he has that relentless style that just looks good. I had actually had round 1 for him, but I think the stats favoured Johns in that one, and I think most of the judges gave him round 1 as well. Matsumoto, he was showing that Holloway style of he threw more and more strikes as the fight went on. The UFC stats showing throwing 54 in round 1, 89 in round 2, and then 106 in round 3. Throughout the entire fight, it was tearing up John's leg. Again, he landed 19 of 35 leg kicks. This was an enjoyable enough fight for me. But what do you think of it, Lazy? Any ideas who Matsumoto might face next?
I hadn't really thought of matchmaking following this fight, but honestly, because unlike you, I didn't really love this fight. I didn't find myself I wasn't very entertained. I certainly wasn't locked in, as the kids would say.
Hater.
I don't know, just something about it. It wasn't doing it for me. My opening headline for this fight was, and this will be a surprise probably for some, but one of these gentlemen got popped for cocaine use. The other one looks like he's the heir to a cocaine fortune. I'll let you decide which is which. Dig into that and find out. But either way, yeah, man, the fight itself, while it was competitive and it was fairly fun, it just didn't. Maybe I was fatigued from my day of combat sports viewing, but it didn't get me going, so I wasn't very locked in. But I thought it wasn't really a fight to write home about. It was a fun enough, scrap between two tough bantamweights. In the end, I'm barely going to remember this. In a couple of months, I'm not going to remember this fight. Like Miles Johns, he's the type of guy he's notorious for making good fighters look average. He's not an amazing guy himself, but he's got that ability to make others look worse than they are. And I've kind of felt like Matsumoto, who had looked really good in some of his prior fights, maybe didn't look the best in this one, but he does get back on the track here with a win. It's just not very memorable. So I think if John Matsumoto wants to make a run at the title or at least push into like the top 5, he's going to need to develop at least one, like a highly potent aspect of his game, something that he could fall back on, because he's just kind of a jack of all trades, and that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm gathering from your comments, Austin, that you did enjoy this scrap a little bit, so let's hear it.
Well, it's surprising, too, that you said you didn't enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoyed this fight, although it was also part of that whole situation where this was the one where it was going to be make or break for my fucking run, and it apparently broke. So it was entertaining as hell for me, besides the picks I was making, because John Matsumoto is that dude who's unsuspecting. He just looks like a typical, stocky bantamweight, similar to John's. And Miles Johns is also kind of like that dude who's you look at him and he's not typical of the division, because he's heavy-handed too. He's got decent strikes. He's he kind of reminds me of a gentleman that was in the promotion who was extremely heavy-handed, but shorter on the shorter side of the bantamweight, former flyweight as well. And they both kind of went at each other, kind of like how people like to throw their action figures when they were kids together, just like just watch them fucking hit each other, right? That's kind of how this fight was. Johns was kind of just tanking heavy shots from from Johns, and Matsumoto was taking the big shots and not really selling it. Like he was. Or actually, no selling it would be the correct term, because he was just kind of accepting the offense he was being given and then just still answering back. I thought Johns won the first because of the power shots. Wasn't so much that they were damaging, but they were landing. If you're landing decent offense, it's enough to at least get the offensive going for the rest of the round. And Matsumoto said, hold my beer. I'm going to take more shots and actually throw more back at you, as you said, Mouse, because he just kept throwing back. It didn't matter. They were throwing head kicks. They were throwing body shots. They were throwing overhand rights. And they were literally just throwing like Like you're watching a pretty high paced fight, considering these guys were just throwing like their light heavyweights for some reason. And it was pretty entertaining, at least I thought. But I had assumed Johns did enough to win, but I was not too disappointed with the decision because Matsumoto is this guy who's also very good, as you said, Lazy. He's well rounded, but I don't think it's a far stretch to say that he's a jack of all trades. You kind of need to be in this sport nowadays because you need to kind of be able to adapt what your offense is being given in return. If you are stuck with a singular offense that the opponent can read and then make reads off of and give you different looks in offense, if you're only doing the one thing or can only do a handful of things, you're limited. Unless you're extremely good at that and nobody else can counter it. Like, even Wonder Boy, we've seen it. I think this fight is a good example of when you're well-rounded. It's a good example of, hey, I can adapt over the course of the fight as long as you're adding things to that offense, which is good. And it was a good fight nonetheless. I still am mad that I lost the decision in favor of Matsumoto, but it is what it is. These things happen in MMA.
Just let me add before we move on. I wasn't necessarily saying that him being a jack of trades is a bad thing, but or that he should be one-dimensional and have like one really good skill set. It's more so like if you're going to be a jack of all trades who's just like pretty solid at everything, you need to have at least like a finishing capability that puts you over the top. Like either you're going to, expand and become more potent in your striking or become more of a submission threat. Like one of the two, just find something to where you could be a real threat to these guys and not so much of just a, he's just kind of like a steady onslaught, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Because I did see that too. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's putting him up for a belt anytime soon, but it was a decent enough fight for me. Yeah, okay. That was followed by a featherweight Philly fight as he took on C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez. C-Rod looked pretty good from the off. It took Philly a little longer to get going. C-Rod closed up the round with a takedown. And then round two, Philly was working the jab very, very nicely. Did enough to take the round. And then round three, he took Rodriguez down and controlled him for most of that round. He had a couple of nice slams there. I wouldn't have considered this a massive robbery if they'd given it to C-Rod with those first two rounds. I did check, and he did actually land more strikes in every round than Philly. But nice job by Philly. It looks like he's stopped C-Rod from getting a ranked opponent next. And shout out to Super Dave for being the only one on this crew to pick Philly.
Oh.
Yeah, shocking, eh? Then against Dave, he picks... If someone else hasn't picked him, Dave will pick him. Don't take Dave as a genius on picks. He's just obstropolous about it. Obstropolous? Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Dude, I picked that intentionally. You're fucking on my pick.
He's fucking raining on his parade, man.
Strike on the mouse. I got Dave to interject. I don't think I've ever done that.
It is. Oh my god.
After a shout out as well. I have a feeling you may have enjoyed this one, Austin. I was actually quite surprised you didn't pick Philly. So let's hear it anyway. What do you got to say about this one?
No, well, in my defense of picking C-Rod, I had assumed that C-Rod's offense would have been enough to win the first two and possibly lose the third, like we saw. That's how I looked at the fight, because his wrestling came into play. Although Feely is that vet now. He used to be the young guy who was just kind of making a name for being a team alpha male guy that wasn't a wrestler, but was a decent and competent striker when he could be. In this fight, he had to kind of rely on the old veteran savvy of just kind of finding opportunities when Rodriguez was leaving his, offense, open, so that he could kind of give him some clapback at some of the offense he was receiving. And on top of it too, Rodriguez is this dude who looks like he could be a bantamweight, but then chooses to not make weight. So, and for reasons of his own doing, he's stuck at featherweight. this is the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, maybe you're good enough to be in this division, but you're struggling against the taller, lankier guys in this weight class. And we've seen it before where, you've put yourself in a position where you're facing opposition that can actually challenge you physically, and you're not just facing an up-and-comer like you're used to doing. And this is kind of the thing where it's like, okay, are you only able to beat newcomers because they actually haven't hit any roadblocks as of yet, and you exploit the openings that they give you? Or are you, a veteran who can only beat, other veterans? And unfortunately, he's the guy now that only succeeds against newcomers, undefeated guys. It seems as though he struggles against guys who have some veteran savvy, and it sucks because I think he's better than that, but that's going to be what he's given. He really did look good with his boxing, had some decent, exchanges on the mat. He just left too many openings for Feely to kind of find a way back into the fight and lose momentum as the fight went on. Like, he lost the plot a little bit at the end, and I think that's what led to him losing the fight. I had it for Rodriguez, but again, this is the second split decision in a row where I was fucking left wondering what the fuck. But it is what it is. This happens in MMA, and I probably had more at stake to get pissed off about. But hey, I'm not mad that Feely won the fight. I'm just disappointed that Christian couldn't put a stamp on it.
Yeah. I think Street actually won the Discord picks on MK with this pick.
Ooh.
I'm guessing. I haven't counted everything up, but yeah, shout out Street 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Lazy, what you got on this one?
Well, guys, I haven't had my C-Rod touchy-feely this much since senior prom. It's been a long time. God damn it. This wasn't, I repeat, this was not the fight that I had anticipated on behalf of Christian Rodriguez. What exactly was the game plan here? Like, why wrestle, sir? Why wrestle? Credit to you, Austin. I have this written down, like you just mentioned, and I think you said it last week as well. C-Rod, he struggles with the taller, lankier fighters, and that proved to be true here. The groove that he typically finds in his fights, he did not find in this one. The ability to get to clinches and waistlock situations and get kind of little trips and takedowns of that nature that he normally gets, that wasn't happening, or at least he wasn't full-heartedly attempting it anyway. But it really felt, I really felt, excuse me, that after the Melky Costa guillotine that Feely literally put himself into, that Rodriguez would pursue the grappling, but that never happened. It didn't happen hardly at any point in the fight. It was another splitty on this main card here, but like you guys said, I'm not necessarily upset about the result. I'm more upset in the performance of C-Rod, who I had picked clearly in the Discord predictions, and he didn't fight the way that I thought he was going to. He didn't bring the kind of game plan and adjustments and overall intensity that I had anticipated. So a little bit disappointed in him. Like, you can turn away numerous undefeated young guns, but you can't overcome a veteran who has lost nearly as many fights as you have won in the mixed martial arts. So it's just fucking crazy. MMA math absolutely doesn't work. I tried to use MMA math in this fight and it didn't happen. So that's my thoughts.
So fucking true.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up, we saw the UFC's youngest fighter at 23, or maybe it's the youngest female, I'm not 100% sure. Yasmin Lucindo. And she took on UFC veteran Angela Overkill Hill in a strawweight bout. I'm not sure I could class Lucinda's striking as good. I mean, I watched Dakota Ditcher for fights, for fuck's sake. But I digress. She does at least throw combinations. That transatlantic lag again. It's not just a 1-2 that she throws. Something's coming after those entry punches. It could be a kick. It could be a takedown attempt, but something is coming. Hill, we saw, she did work the body pretty well. I think she hit her with about 19 out of 23, 24 strikes or something. But it didn't seem to slow Lucindo down too much. And I actually gave her Yasmin every single round. Ben Cartridge was the only judge to disagree, and I think he was the one that was in the other unusual score that was given in one of the fights last night. Yeah, but he was the only judge to disagree and give Hill a round. But there's no argument at who won this one. And Lazy, I think you're up first on this. So thoughts on the Lazies? I'm not even drunk. That's disgusting. Thoughts on the ladies? Is it time for Hill to hang up the gloves, or is there still enough life left in this old dog? And I guess what's next for Lucinda? I know she's already in the top 10, but what's next for her too?
Oh hell, I don't fucking know. I have no clue. I'm not even gonna pretend like I do. I don't got them in front of me. So,
what about your girl having a shot at her? Klein, Fatima? Is it Fatima Klein?
Maybe
she's strawweight.
Yeah,
she's not even ranked though. You can't throw her that far in. Come on.
Could be a bit too soon.
I'm taking the piss. Don't worry about it.
Well, and also to correct, or not correct rather, but I guess touch on what you said before. She is the youngest female on the roster, not the youngest overall, but the youngest female. And 23 versus 40 is fun, but have you ever seen a 15-year-old versus 37-year-old in Japanese kickboxing? These kids are fucking hoodlums. I've seen it recently. Like, you don't want to fuck with these youngsters. These kids under 25, they're tough. But yeah, I mean, you may be onto something with it being time for Angie to call it a career. Can she continue on? Does she have enough tread left on the tires to continue at her current rate? Sure, but that's like a 50-50 rate, and that's not like, what the fuck is that? What's the point of that? Why are you fighting this far into your career and this far into your life, well into your 40s, to be a 50-50 fighter? I'm sure the money's pretty good that she's making because she's been around so long, but I don't know, man. It could be the end of the road for Angela Hill. A decision goes against Angela Hill. What are the odds? At least it wasn't a split decision in this scenario. She is fun. I don't want to hate on her because she is a fun fighter, but she's definitely over the hill. She's over the hump. She's over the titty insert that stands in front of her, if you will. It's wild that you can be as experienced as her and have so many fights under your belt, but you still have no clue how to pull out a W in a close fight. And I think you gotta put some blame for that on her gym and her team. And she trains with a good gym, Alliance MMA, and Coach Eric Del Fiero. Those are good names in the MMA world. But how did you never mold this woman into something better? Like, she clearly has a skill set. She has a drive and determination, but there's something lacking in there that's left her with the career record that she has. So, like, while it's a nice win for Lucinda, my bigger takeaway is, what went wrong in the career of Angela Hill? Because I feel like she could have been much better than she ever became. She could have achieved more than she ever achieved. So, yeah, a win for Lucinda, who hasn't faced anyone under the age of 37 in her last 4 fights. Like, by God, get this girl a reasonable close in age opponent for her next fight, whoever it is. Don't ask me because I don't know the rankings, but she's cleared out the retirement home. Give her somebody young.
I wonder how many fights she has left on her contract. That could be the deciding matter.
Yeah, I mean, well, because think about it. It's not like she looked completely like trash in there. She just got beat by a younger, more athletic, bigger fighter. That's what that looked like to me. Like, and to your point, Lazy, about Angela kind of looking like she was somebody who could have had something and probably would have been better, like at some point in her career, if she had, developed around the game plan or skills that she had. Maybe do that thing where the gym kind of circulates around her, or is built around her rather than her work on a gym that everybody else has to kind of work with the coaches. Maybe that would have been probably the best thing for her. But unfortunately, with her fight style, and we've seen it before, she loses pretty much every close fight, every single close fight. I think we made a joke. I think the last time she won, where it was like a decision she should have probably lost, and she was given it. And we kind of said, like, yeah, she got one back. Yeah. Right. But it's funny because she's never been a person who has, said some ignorant shit. She's always been like a fun fighter for everybody to watch. And we all kind of cheer for her. We like Angie, on this program. I believe we all like Angela Hill. And we've all been pretty thankful that she gives us an exciting style. She doesn't really ever quit. She's been in there with some of the best and, fought back pretty well against a lot of them. But I think what happened is that when she came in, she only had one skill set. which was basically a decent kickboxing game. And that was it. She didn't really have a ground game. She didn't really have a boxing style. She didn't really have, any real like offensive weapons that you could say, okay, that thing, that right hand, that left to the body, that high kick, or knees that she brings into the clinch. She didn't really have any of that. She just kind of came in with like, I know how to do some kickboxing cardio, and she kind of made it work despite not really being able to complete that. She only just now has a ground game. You know what I mean? And at 40, that's hard to do. I think she could still, put in a handful of performances. I don't think she needs to retire just yet. I think the UFC will probably call it the minute that they no longer feel she's required in the division. And I think she'll be fine because I think she does a podcast now. She has like things that she does on the side. Like you said, Lazy, there's other things that can take her time and energy. But like, losing to Yasmin Lucindo, who's not really like the hot prospect coming off and just running through the division. She's just kind of like, I haven't been impressed with her, and I'm waiting to kind of see a performance similar to this where I'm like, okay, now let's see what you look like against an elite contender. She's in the top 10. Give her somebody in the top 5. Why not? Because there's not going to be really any reason to slow her down. She's there. It's not like she could take a step back. She technically took a step back with this fight. So I don't find it an issue if she faces someone in the top 5 and then gets her ass kicked and then she, finds herself down into the top 15, from 15 to 11. It'd be fine. It'd be fine. She's young enough to take the hit. She already has losses, and I don't see an issue with her facing somebody at the top end of the division because that's what this division needs. You need people who are recognizable, young enough to actually push through the division, similar to how I'm going to talk about in the main event, where you get some results. If she loses, it is what it is. You need turnover. You need turnover.
Okie dokie then. Well, I was just teasing Angela. I love you. Next up for the co-main, another bantamweight fight between the almost champ Steve Erceg, who I actually quite like, and Odie Osborne, who I have no opinion on really because he's not ranked, and I know he's from the Contender Series, and I've probably seen some of his fights, and he's decent, but I didn't remember very much about him. Anyway, it was an important fight for Erceg. He was on a 3-fight losing streak, so quite possibly he wasn't just fighting for his number 10 spot, but for his entire UFC career. The Jamaican sensation looked lightning fast. He Erceg a few times before he smashed a right hook, I think it was, behind Astro Boy's ear and almost sent him into orbit. Then what followed was a grappling exchange as Erceg desperately died for a takedown, and he ended up taking. He got it, but he ended up taking some fairly nasty ground and pound. He survived though, even threatened a choke towards the end of the round, and then round 2. The fight kind of switched over. Erceg was allowed to play the game that he wanted up against the cage. He didn't give Odin much opportunity of striking in the open. Late in the round, in one of those exchanges up against the cage, Erceg landed a knee that it made Odin flash his mouthpiece, and it looked like he was either hurt or had the wind knocked out of him in that moment. I maybe saw a little grimace on his face. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But round 3, we saw Erceg engage in the grappling again. He took Osborne down, threatened several chokes. Osborne briefly managed to get back up to his feet. And then Erceg it was a really, really nice little trip that he did to take the fight back down to the canvas. Unanimous decision, 29-28 on all cards. Nice job, Astro Boy. I believe you're up next, Austin. Are you happy to have Steve finally break that losing streak? What do you think's next for him? Someone in the top 10? Or do you believe he should defend his spot against another top 15 fighter?
Okay. The question I would ask is, are you guys in favor of tune-up fights? Because I feel like this was a tune-up fight, like an appropriate tune-up fight that was last minute, right? And it's not so much that I don't believe in Erceg, but this is, like you said, I appreciated the ability to survive, adapt, and overcome the offense that Ode was giving to Erceg. Like I believe that if Ode kind of kept his cool, he probably would have finished Erceg and allowed himself to not force the finish, but the finish would have come had he not kind of rushed for it. And because of that, Erceg was able to survive with the wrestling and basically was like, all right, shit, this is my one chance of actually like bouncing back. I can't let it go. And he stuck to his game plan, which was to, when they adapted, wrestle. Look for jabs, look for kicks, counter him when you have the ability to. Do not force heavy shots. Do not try to trade, because he was hurting him. And Ursig had to learn, again on the fly, which has been a story and theme of his career as of late in the UFC, that you cannot always, finish your opponent. You cannot always beat your opponent handily. You have to be able to endure and adapt. And that was the thing that was great to see, because he's been capable. Hell, he probably gave Pantoja one of his toughest fights. So like within the last like year or two, or 2 years, I should say. And the crazy part about that was like he had basically, he's not going to do a Rory McDonald, I'm hoping. And I'm saying that now knowing what that means usually. He's that guy who you want to see, do well, because he's young. He's capable, and he's still like fairly new to the division, dude. Like he went 3-0 and then got a title fight, and then went 0-3. And you're like, God damn it, man! Can you just get a goddamn break, But like, he's got a little bit of time to turn it around, because this is a great performance against a really tough guy, in Ode Osborne, who will kind of like, he'll win some, he'll lose some, he'll look bad, he'll look decent, and then he'll just kind of like surprise you. This is one of those ones where you're like, okay, well, this one's really a 50-50 fight. And honestly, Ursig needs to stay here and defend his position. He cannot go forward. He has to stay where he is and keep defending it a couple of times at a bare minimum, taking fights backwards. That's just what he's going to have to do, even if it's against other ranked opposition. It's kind of the shoes you have to fill right now. And the division needs that right now. Anyways, you need guys to kind of push through the latter parts of the division, because you're already getting two newcomers that are all honestly on their way up to the title fight. Josh Van, one of them, and, Tetsura was another one. And he's there. He's there. He's already done the bounce back. He's going to need to do it again. I have nothing but confidence that he can do it again. It just depends on the matchup. And realistically, for Osborne, great performance. Hopefully he can get another one back in fairly soon and get a win, because that's a guy you need for this division as well. He's not going to always win every fight, but he's going to give you a fight nonetheless. So that's where I stand, at least with it.
Usyk should have fought Park, who was sacrificed to Tyra last week, I believe.
Yeah, that was the original opponent, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Lazy, I just checked. Well, while I was writing this script, I checked, and you picked Ode. So your thoughts on the fight? Did you actually think Ode might have done enough to win it? And if not, what's next for your Jamaican sensation?
Well, I don't know if I would call him my Jamaican sensation. I had some thoughts and some feelings coming into this fight that's proved to be semi-true, but then also, in the end proved to not be true. But I would start by saying, guys, hello. My name is LazyBed, and I am 6'7" tall. I am 275 pounds of pure muscle. Wait, what's that? Oh, I thought after the way that they scored that first round at 10-9, we were just telling made-up stories. I thought we were just telling made-up stories here, guys. I don't care who you are. I don't care what. I don't care what you say. That first round was a fucking 10-8 for Ode Osborne. If you tell me that the first round and the second round were to be scored the same, that they were of the same damage and same impact and same value, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, the difference in that first round and the second round are night and day. In that first round, Ode dropped Usyk twice. He took his back. He ended up on top of Steve both times that he attempted to grapple, one of them in the full mount. I mean, Steve Usyk basically had no offense at all in that first round. So you could feel free to give him...
He did threaten a choke towards the end.
For fucking 5 seconds, and Ode ended up on top in fucking Steve's guard. I just rewatched it. I mean, so you could feel... You could feel free to give him the last 2 rounds, but that fight, in my humble opinion, was 28-28 at best. That was a draw. That fight was a fucking draw.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say. So you were okay with the draw, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I say I give Steve the last 2 rounds easily, but that first round, like, if you score that the same way you scored the second round, like, what is a 10-8? I mean, especially now with them valuing damage more the way they have, being more liberal last night with 10-8s than they've been in a long time. that felt weird to me that you didn't credit him for absolutely cracking Erceg and having him on spaghetti legs to the point where he stumbled forward and face planted into the cage, like, and then getting dropped again in the follow-up sequence. So regardless, it is what it is there. I think this fight was a draw, but it's fine. Steve Erceg, happy to see him get back in the win category. So that's great and everything. But my leans, like you pointed out, DangerMouse, with picking O'Day were, O'Day Osborne, he's got length like very few guys in the flyweight division. Now, even though this fight took place at bantamweight, he's got length like very few guys in that flyweight division. He's got speed out the fucking ass, and those two things combined are a very tough adjustment for anyone, especially on short notice. So that was my lean coming in, and that kind of played out in the first round, but kudos to Steve for adjusting and doing what was necessary to pull out this win. But I've said this before and I maintain this. I feel like we've seen the best Steve Erceg already. I feel like he peaked against Pantoja, maybe even overachieved in that fight. But that was the watermark. So I think Steve Erceg, he's a solid fighter. Does he lack defense? Yes, he gets hit way too much. Is he a bit slow? Perhaps. But when he puts it all together with confidence, and that's the fucking key, when the guy has his confidence, he's dangerously well-rounded, and he could be a problem in this division still. I don't like the way he looked against O'Day, but he did stop himself from hitting that 4-fight skid, and you can't be upset at that. I'll just say that I think, personally, I don't think he ever reaches another title fight, even in a division as wide open as flyweight. I think he's seen his ceiling.
Oh, wow. Just fucking bury him and fucking put him in the fucking coffin already. Jesus. God
Somebody's got to have some hot takes around here. Let's fucking
go. Okay.
Prove me wrong, Steve. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, I did not see that as a 10-8 round, I must admit. But this is the argument why we need half points in MMA. She could have scored those other 2 rounds at 9.5s maybe. Or whatever.
Well, it's just interesting that Lazy has such a confident assertion of the round of which he says it should have been the leaning towards the 10-8 and then be okay with the draw, but he doesn't like it when people don't like Andy Foster score 10-10s. Interesting.
There's a big difference in a 10-8 and a 10-10. Big difference.
It leads to a draw. What do you mean? If it's a 10-10, it's the same thing as marketed a 10-8 and 2 10-9s. It's a draw.
Yeah, right. But it leads to a draw because you're accurately assessing the action in front of you, not because you don't want to make a decision and you just give it a 10-10 because you're lazy. And if I'm calling you lazy, that means you're fucking lazy.
God, no. Fucking okay. Fair enough, sir.
There's no room for being impartial and judging. That's
Are you kidding me? This is how it works.
You have to have some sort of decisiveness. You got to have a lean one way or another.
Do you see how long it took fucking Hernandez to get take away a point from fucking Dolidze, who was getting fucking run over the entirety of the fight?
Well, we're about to get to that.
We are indeed.
Okay. Fair.
Okay, then. On to that main event at middleweight, Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez. The only person I knew that was surprised that Fluffy won this was MMA Guru. He apparently picked him. Fluffy, he has a very simple game. He pushes you back, gets you into a clinch, he takes you down, he makes you carry his weight, and then he uses very basic wrestling to keep you down. He only releases his hands to hit you, and impose a bit of ground and pound on you. And the second you escape and he no longer likes that position, he stands up, lets you up. And then it's rinse and repeat. It's weaponized cardio in the finest way. And Dolidze simply had no answer for it. I did hear Jed Meshew saying that Nixick should have thrown the towel in after round 2, as Roman had no answers to the questions he was being asked. That doesn't happen in MMA, although it probably should. And I'm going to mix up the order here, and we'll hear Austin's thoughts on this middleweight massacre.
Yes. So the reincarnation, although one of these gentlemen I'm going to say it hasn't been, he's not dead. He's just gone from the sport, and it's Cain Velasquez. This is the reincarnation of Cain Velasquez at middleweight, right? Which is surprising because he doesn't really look like a middleweight, but neither did Cain. Cain kind of looked like a light heavyweight who just didn't cut weight. So, hey, it kind of fits the role a little bit. And on top of it, too, he has decent boxing, but his thing was, I'm going to just fucking ground you in real time. It's like watching... It's kind of like watching someone get waterboarded and then realizing, oh, wait, that they're actually in a fight. And then they try to fight back, but it's just, it doesn't matter. You know, you're just, watching someone get tortured for the next like 25 to 15 minutes. And it's insane to watch because you're looking at what, Fluffy's doing, and Anthony Hernandez does not let up. He just kind of stays on you and stays in front of you, and you cannot stop him. Hell, the one crazy thing about this was the fact that Roman was in real time watching it and understanding what was happening to him and could do nothing about it, despite the multiple fence scraps, despite the fact that he is a much bigger man, despite the fact that he actually landed clean on Fluffy a handful of times. And he's looking at, well, it's like watching a bully get bullied. And that was the funniest thing to me, was that like, oh, I actually can't hurt him. This is not going to end well for me. And you see the look of fear on him. And I know you guys had that interview with Ant Evans where it's like, oh yeah, fighters have to have fear. No, Roman didn't have fear until he went in and started throwing with Fluffy, and then realized, oh, fear is real, and this cannot go well for me. And it did it. It did it. It really did it. I mean, despite the multiple fence grabs, which actually didn't really, stop Fluffy from doing what he was doing, Anthony Hernandez never stopped to find offense. Anthony Hernandez, much like Cain Velasquez did, never let up the pressure because it was this constant progression to damage. Doesn't matter how he was doing it. He was always looking for offensive opportunities, which is great. That is what you want to do with a guy like him. He's not going to outstrike you on the feet. He's not going to, submit you right off the bat. I mean, he's not like a jiu-jitsu whiz, although he did submit one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners to be in the sport not too long ago. He's on a win streak right now, and it's almost like he's like a train going downhill. Unless you physically derail the train, you're not going to stop it. That's just who he is. And Robert Whittaker did this before, and I'm gonna make it make sense in a second. Fluffy is an undersized middleweight. I don't know if you could tell, the last handful of guys he's faced, aside from Brandon Allen, all look quite big compared to him. And he kind of makes it look like, yeah, I don't care how big these guys are, I'm still going to do the same thing. And he does, because he's a great grappler. And he's just confident in the fact that he's going to find moments to bring them to the mat and beat the shit out of them, because he does. That's what he does. Robert Whittaker did something similar where he just brought a different game that nobody could figure out and have the cardio to back up his abilities. He also had great finishing ability as well, which is, very important in this division. When you're a smaller guy facing much bigger men, you need to be able to also have the ability to finish them. Fluffy has that, and he is using that to his advantage every single time. He's not afraid of getting hurt. He is not afraid of having a tough fight. He is a guy who is willing to do what needs to be done to get to the win. And that is impressive, especially with the guy as undersized as Fluffy against some of these massive middleweights. And I think the thing is that now you might need to just put him up against Rainer de Ridder, honestly. And the winner of that is next in line. That's what I would say, because you already have Kyle Baralio versus Nasruddin Imavov fighting, I think, on the next pay-per-view or sometime down the line. No, not the next pay-per-view, but still. This is the good part about this division. You have guys with momentum finally getting to meet each other, and then their next spot is the title. And that's what Drakus needs. He needs contenders. He needs to fight. He's already beat all the other top guys in the division. He needs contenders now. And despite what happens with the title fight, I think we have Fluffy, Rainer de Ridder, the winner of Kyle Baralio versus Nasruddin Imavov, and Khamzat, all there. It's a great time to be in the middleweight in this division if you're one of those guys. If you're everybody else, fuck, man. Like, I would just fucking leave the division. I wouldn't want to fucking be there. No, thank you. I would like to think I would like to see if Fluffy has the ability to make welterweight at any time. If, let's say, something goes awry in his next fight, but he's not there until he loses, and it's his decision to make. He's winning. Continue on your path to glory, my friend.
Are you after taking Chael's title? It's Imavov, not Imavovov.
Possibly. I said it pretty fast too, so that doesn't help.
You had an extra of. What are you trying to do? Increase his power?
I would never.
Yeah, I did say at the start of this that only MMA Guru was upset or surprised that Fluffy won this and Dolidze lost. And it should have been Lazy's turn to go first, but he did pick Dolidze, so he deserved to go last. So let's hear it, sir. What you got to say about yourself?
I did pick Roman Dolidze. Indeed, I did, and it was a terrible fucking decision on my part. Just to touch on that to begin with. In my defense, I felt like this was like a the Yanni the Greek term, a regression towards the mean fight. I thought that 7 fights in a row. That's a lot of wins. That's quite a streak to be on, and at some point, things got to go the other way for you. It doesn't matter who you are, unless you're Khabib. Something's got to not go your way eventually. And I just kind of felt like, after, again, MMA math myself. Like I looked at Fluffy's last performance against Brendan Allen, and I thought, this is the time where, he's going to run into a challenge a bit too, he's going to run to a brick wall that he's not going to be able to run through. I was fucking wrong. But yeah. That's my fault. That's my problem. It was a good analogy you made there, Austin, with the train rolling down the track. I had started writing something prior to this, one last thing coming soon to the 3-punch convo community, but I compared him to a snowball rolling down a hill. Like it just keeps getting larger and larger and more impending doom the further it rolls down the hill and the closer it comes to you. And that's just kind of what he is. The guy's a steamroller, but I did have an opening headline for this fight, just like I did all of them. And the opening headline for this one was Caucasian man ridicules Mexican American for being avid cannabis consumer. And in turn, he gets smoked like a spliff of Acapulco Gold.
Like, bro, I really don't pay attention. I'm usually like high as shit. So, I like violence, bro. It's the only thing I'm good at.
I don't know if you guys caught that, but Dolidze was kind of shitting on Fluffy for being a weed smoker. And hey, Roman Dolidze, and karma can be a bitch, Roman. Don't criticize weed smokers. For one, you're no better than us. And for two, I've heard directly from natives and locals who say that the beautiful country of Georgia loves to partake in a little bit of the ganja. And of course they do. They're a country of art and culture. Of course, they love their fucking cannabis. But anyways, this was, like I said, this was kind of like a one of two ways fight for me. Either it went exactly how it went last night, and Fluffy would put the pressure on to outpace Dolidze, and he would run him into the dirt for an eventual sub, or Hernandez would look more like how he looked against Brendan Allen, and he would kind of struggle to find the success wrestling and not really be able to find his rhythm, etc. But that's something that Roman he's been good at doing to guys. Like, he's good at stifling his opponents and making fights ugly and grueling. And frankly, he's great at winning fights that aren't fun to watch. But I didn't see it going down quite the way it went down last night, though. That was a dog walking for all fucking times. Like, he outclassed Roman. That's probably the word. Like, Dolidze looked like he did not belong in the octagon with Fluffy whatsoever. Fluffy seemed like pretty disgusted after a certain point. Like just fighting this fucking guy left a bitter taste in his mouth. And come to find out, he was also just ready to get the fuck out of there. Why? Because he had 4 joints rolled up and ready to rip. So
I guess we know how you're celebrating tonight.
Oh, for sure. I'm fucking token big. Yeah, fuck yeah. Got like 4 joints rolled already.
That's my kind of guy right there. That's my kind of guy. I bet those doobies tasted even better knowing that he had picked up one of the 4 performance bonuses of the night. Also, a good thing for him. In the end, though, a fight full of moments for Anthony Hernandez. He had the arm triangle rock bottom takedown moment. You had him dragging Dolidze across the mat by his neck and throwing him down like dirty laundry. And you had him literally smiling mid-fight as he's getting punches winged at his dome. fucking crazy bastard. And my biggest takeaways are: 1, get this guy a top 5 fight outside of the Apex. I don't care who it is. Just he deserves top 5 out of the warehouse. 2, this stat right here, on this run for Fluffy, he has 8 wins, 6 finishes, and 52 fucking takedowns. That's mind-boggling for a middleweight. 52? And then finally, 3, shout out and congratulations to Herb Dean, who finally did his job and deducted a point, albeit right before the fight was finished. But he did do it, and he did do it on the fly, just like had been discussed recently by Andy Foster, a move that commissions are now pushing for, and also a move that MMA pundits like Luke Thomas and Big John McCarthy and myself all support. So shout out and a round of applause, Herb Dean.
Yeah, a rare one these days.
Oh my God, he did his job. Good for him. Woo.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed, exactly. Okay, I guess we should take a look at the best of the rest. And I'm going to jump in here first because I want to talk about this one, and I'm going to spoil these two guys' options on it. Another bantamweight bout, Elijah Smith defeating Toshiomi Kazama by a slam at 4 minutes 10. Great little fight. Smith started off trying for a jumping knee to start things off, and then we ended up with a fun entanglement where Smith, when he wasn't grabbing the cage, no point taken there for that one, he was raining down some nasty ground and pound while Kazama tried for a leg locks. And then eventually Smith escaped that threat, was briefly threatened with an armbar. And then the final threat was a triangle, which saw Smith channel his inner Rampage Jackson, and he picked Kazama up and slammed him down into the canvas, kept his hand on Kazama's chin, and rammed him down hard into the canvas, like I said. And I think he actually headbutted him too on the way down. Not deliberately, just it's the laws of physics. That much momentum is not easily stopped so quickly. Almost certainly my KO of the year, I think, as long as I remember it. Yeah, you guys, thoughts on this one and any of the other fights from the undercard?
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on the slam KO there. Yeah, like not only did he do Rampage Jackson proud, he also did fucking pro wrestlers like Big Sexy Kevin Nash proud, because that was a literal jackknife powerbomb. That's a fucking deadly move in pro wrestling, and also now a deadly move in the MMA cage. You know, a full extension on that thing too. He went all the way up on his fucking tippy toes to slam him down. He did not hold back an ounce of his fury. Slammed him with all his might. Luckily, Toshiomi Kazama, or is it Kazama? Is that his name? Yeah. Is okay. You know, he did come to, went to the hospital. All the scans came back fine. And by sometime last night, he was at Five Guys eating a cheeseburger. So he's happy to be alive and doing fairly well. And we're all happy to have him here. But before I get to mine, I have a feeling Austin's going to pick a weird one. So let's let Austin go first with his actual selection or his words on this.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong with either of those statements. I have to say it, man. Look, I hate to be the guy that rains on the fun parade here, but I did not love that slam. I am not against power bombs, nor am I against slams to finishes or knockouts. The way that slam looked to me, as it was just I have this thing where I do not like the ability for a fighter to want to end somebody else's career. And that to me was not him. In Woods' defense, I don't think he was trying to end Kazama's career, but there needs to be some kind of a look at and again, I understand the concept of defending the submission by lifting your opponent up, and your opponent can release the submission. But I just have this weird inkling feeling where it's like he was already kind of on wobbly legs by the time he was locking up that submission. He was hurt. And there's a possibility I do not want this situation to come up where we are watching the sport and we watch somebody die because of some needless violence. I would prefer some kind of evaluation on slams to begin with, just so we can kind of remove the possibility of someone being paralyzed while we watch. I mean, we watch other sports and we've seen injuries happen plenty of time, and we've even watched injuries happen in this sport. And I mean, We've watched plenty of times where slams have happened here and people have gone unconscious. The 2 follow-up strikes definitely were unnecessary, but that the ref has to get in the middle of that. I would have appreciated had the fighter who threw the slam probably understood the guy was not going to get back up. Matter of fact, the fight was done the minute that he slammed him. The headbutt followed, and then 2 follow-up shots. I just don't want to be in a situation where we're wondering why didn't somebody step in sooner when violence could have been changed. But neither here nor there. That's just my little rant. He looks like a kid who looks like he's on the right direction for being a contender in this division. Exciting as all hell. I just wish we could have done something slightly different. Lazy, did you want to go on your other fight, or did you want me to let me just go on the weird one?
You could, yeah, you finish up.
Okay, Brandage Mechanico.
I knew it. I knew it. This is why I wanted to.
I know. Sorry. So, to be honest, like I did pick this one on the fly, and I did tell Daz this. I was like, I had this whole game plan as to like how the fight was going to be, and it did not go exactly to that at all. And he kind of told me, "He's all you sit on a throne of lies, sir," because this gave me the climb, more or less, And then I'm going to be honest.
If I do an IPA introduction for you next time, Austin, I'm going to put predictable in for the P, I think.
Hey, you know what? It is what it is. Excuse me, okay?
Yeah, I know it's not here nor there. Yeah.
Hey, but and Brundage should have won. Brundage should have won. I'm going to give him that, but he let the fight get away from him. Brundage is not that guy. This fight was at light heavyweight, for Christ's sake. Like, come on, like 2 below middleweights, like. You want to argue that these are middleweights? No, not even that, because at least middleweights are doing something. These guys kind of like forgot what they were doing at times and then realized they were in a fight. And then Brundage, being the guy who has like the harder mixed record, but being a veteran in the UFC, should at least been out there trying to finish regularly, but he couldn't, because half the time he would forget what he was doing. And he's like watching fucking Mechanico kind of like sucker around and throw a hard punch at him and survive when he was getting hit. And then Brundage is wondering, why didn't I win the fight? Well, fuck, dude, you're usually the guy who gets hurt in the middle of it and it becomes a no contest, loses to a knockout, loses via weird fucking, bullshit. And then you wonder why the decision doesn't go your way, because the MMA gods hate you. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. No one respects you like that, because if the MMA gods look at you and think, yeah, your career should be 50-50 in the UFC. Yeah, no one wants that. No. Mechanico probably shouldn't have won, but that's not on him. That's on you. You should have finished him. Multiple times you had the opportunity to, but apparently couldn't pull the fucking trigger regularly. I'm sorry, but whatever.
All right, well, I'll slide mine in here real quick. Yeah, and also, Cody fucking Brundage, you are the bane of my existence. Just fucking get lost, dude. I've never bet Cody Brundage, always bet against Brundage. And the one time that I pick him, the one fucking time he should have won, and he fucking loses in the weirdest decision of the night. Like, whatever, dude. Just fuck you, Cody Brundage. But yeah, real quickly, I got to give just 2 shout-outs, at least 2 shout-outs. The other 2 performance bonus winners of the night, and they also weren't on the main card. The one being the woman that did the unthinkable. She slayed the undead zombie, our gal, Jiggling Jocelyn Edwards. She put that big old... I wasn't going to say what you think I was going to say. She put that big old Panamanian mitt on Priscilla's chin and set her on her back. Nice heavy follow-up shots. She got a lot of heavy things going on, but she did seal the deal there. I hate to see her go. I love to watch her leave. Shout out Jocelyn Edwards. And then also Uros Medic, who turned Gilbert Urbina into Gilbert Urbinka. Bink? Get it? Bink. The poor bastard looked like he ran into a fucking pole and knocked himself out or something. That was so funny. Like, he's just going forward, no concern for his life and safety, and boom, he's on his fucking back. Like, crazy. But also, last thing about Uros Medic, I found out that he's a Serbian fighting out of Alaska, which just seems like a really interesting combo. I don't know why, but Serbian fighting out of Alaska. Anyways, R.I.P. Gilbert Urbina. Don't ever tell anyone you were born in Ohio, because we don't want you.
Nice.
Yeah, that Edwards Cachoeira fight was quite amusing, unexpectedly fun and unexpectedly short. I've written down for it. Yeah, Cachoeira was just marching forward, Edwards with that 5-inch reach advantage. How the fuck did you think this fight was going to end up? All the commentary team were all over it as well. They were like, she's going to left hook her in a minute. She's going to left hook her. She's going to left hook her. She tried several times, and eventually she caught with one on the temple, I think it was, and then it was a straight right or a right hook that followed it up that sent Chatri down, looking very, very bemused. The follow-up shot hit her, I think, and then after that she was hugging Herb Dean's leg for grim death. Yeah, that was a good little knockout. And as you said, the Medic one, after he gets dropped in the first 7 seconds of the fight, and then a minute later, just blasts that straight left hand straight down the pipe. Yeah, again, single hammer fist follow up, I believe there was. Not really necessary, but at least didn't follow it up with more, unlike our friend Elijah Smith. And on that first fight, the one Austin mentioned, I think that's the one that, well, what's his name? Ben Cartledge had the weird score on that ended up giving it to McConaughey. I could be wrong.
Fucking bastard.
Yeah, one of my only 2 losses on the card. I told you I'd tell me you ask how many I'd got later, Austin. 10 out of 12.
That's fine.
10 out of 12.
I accept this win.
Yeah, I guess there's only one thing left to do in our weekly adventure into MMA, and that's to rate this card. And who wants to go first?
Instantly 7. Instantly 7. Only reason why it's not higher is because I lost 3 fights. Damn it. It's a 7 because that main event was just a shellacking. Like Hernandez beat Dolidze like he owed him money. Like it's that meme, that scene from Family Guy where Stewie's like, "Where's my money, Brian? Where's my money?" Just beat the fuck out of him. And then the rest of the card was interesting. Great fights as usual. Can't really complain. I can't really reward it for the slam. It's just, I don't know what it is. Like, had it been slightly less aggressive, maybe, if it landed slightly more like, crazy. Like if he even just hammer fisted him to a finish, I would have been fine with that. But just something about that, the way the slam happened, just it's not my favorite thing. But other than that, great night. 7 for me.
Lazy?
Yeah. Well, come to think of it, it's going to be pretty interesting Tuesday night to get Big John McCarthy's opinions on that slam. I think I'm going to ask him his thoughts on that and the legality of that, whether or not that.
Yeah, you said it a spike, didn't you, in the MTM chat?
Yeah. It ran the possibility, but being the fact that Kazama held on to the triangle, I think that he kind of accounted for part of it. But I'm going to ask him and see what he says. I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Weighing in live chat Tuesday night, moderated by LazyBed. But yeah, looking back on a whole, like I can't be too generous with this card. Like it wasn't fun, super fun top to bottom, but we also had some really incredible singular moments throughout it. So like there were some fun sloppy fights. You had what's his name, Juicebox Walker against Circado, where they were kind of very Pat Barry, Czech Congo-esque, knocking each other down and just falling all over the place and bumbling about. Also some pretty exciting finishes that are certainly going to live on in the highlight reels. The slam, whether you're for it or against it, the spinning elbow from CLD, the dragging of Dolidze across the cage and him getting tossed down. Those are all going to live on for a while. So it had its moments, but there was also some absolute stinkers and oddly bad pacing. The UFC has been very bad with the pacing lately. This card took close to 7 hours. So, hey, you said it, Austin, 7. I just said 7 hours of broadcast. There was about 7 fun fights. I like that. Let's give this a lucky 7 from LazyBed.
Okay. That's very yeah. I suppose I will have to give my go. I think I was a little bit too generous last week, to be honest. And this was a very good card, and I think I'm going to score it very close to these guys. And I'll stick with the 7s involved, but mine's going to be a 6.97.
Very nice.
Just below a 7 purposefully. That's fair. Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's about it from us today. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. we will be back for UFC 319 in Chicago, where Khamzat Chimaev will try and take the middleweight belt from Dricus du Plessis. LazyBed will be hosting that one, so I'll be able to have a few drinks. Which reminds me, as we record this, it's getting late here, and it's about time for my Kahlua Cocoa. So it's goodbye from Austin, aka No Special. It's goodbye from LazyBed, aka that guy who's in your MMA chat room. And it's goodbye from me, your host, DangerMouse, aka that guy who needs a drink. Barman!
Hey, you owe me a beer, you son of a bitch. You did it!
In that case, I shall mock you with my results a little bit later. And of course, we have our own connoisseur of cannabis. If he was a strain, he'd probably be if he was a strain, he'd probably be a Kaiho. Damn it! I should have practiced this word before. If he was a strain, he'd probably be a Cuyahoga Crow. Fuck me. If he was a strain, he'd probably be a Cayena. Do you know? I did practice this afternoon. It's just
It's a tough word.
shouldn't. Yeah. If it
What?